Picture your entire life with one single thing removed. Fire. No stove, no heating, no electricity, because almost all of it, even today, traces back to controlling fire in some form. What actually happens to a species that never gets this? This isn't just a thought experiment for fun. Fire is so deeply woven into what makes us human that removing it means asking a much bigger question. Would we even be human at all? Let's start with the most basic problem. Food. Without fire, every single meal for your entire life is raw. No exceptions. Remember, cooking doesn't just make food taste better, it pre-breaks down tough fibers and proteins before they reach your stomach. Without it, your body has to do all of that work itself every single time. That means spending hours a day just chewing closer to how chimpanzees eat today and getting meaningfully fewer usable calories out of every meal. And that single limitation cascades into something much bigger. Remember the cooking hypothesis, the idea that cooked food freed up energy that got redirected into growing a larger brain. Without fire, that energy trade never happens. In this version of events, brain size very plausibly plateaus far earlier and far smaller than it actually did. A smaller brain means less capacity for the things a large brain enables. Complex language, abstract planning, advanced tool use, and the kind of large-scale cooperation that later civilizations depended on entirely. Now let's talk about temperature. Fire is what let humans survive in genuinely cold environments. Without it, your body's tolerance for cold becomes the hard limit on where you're allowed to live. In this world, humans almost certainly never leave the warm regions of the planet. No cold climate migration into Europe or Siberia, because without fire, that migration is a death sentence, not an adventure. That single limitation reshapes the entire map of human history. Smaller total range, smaller total population, less genetic and cultural diversity, developing across isolated environments. Next, safety at night. Remember, fire is one of the only reliable deterrents early humans ever had against nighttime predators. Without it, nighttime remains exactly as dangerous as it always was every single night, for every single generation, with no technology ever changing that equation. Some researchers would argue that alone could suppress population growth, significantly more nighttime predation deaths, generation after generation, with no way to fight back. Now think about metal. Every metal tool humans ever made, bronze, iron, steel, required extreme heat to extract and shape from raw ore. Without fire, that entire branch of technology never begins. No metal tools means no advanced agriculture equipment, no metal weapons, no complex construction. An entire technological ladder that never gets a first rung. Pottery has the same problem. Firing clay into hard waterproof containers requires controlled heat. Without it, there's no reliable way to store surplus food or liquid long term. And without reliable food storage, the case for settling in one place and farming gets significantly weaker. Remember, some researchers already argue fermentation and food storage helped motivate the shift to agriculture in the first place. So in this version of history, humans likely stay smaller in number, confined to warm regions, more vulnerable to predators every single night, without metal tools, without reliable food storage, and without the surplus energy that built a bigger brain in the first place. That doesn't necessarily mean extinction. Plenty of species survive for millions of years without ever controlling fire. But it very likely means a fundamentally different trajectory, slower change, smaller populations, far less capability. It's genuinely difficult to imagine writing, cities, or industry ever emerging in this version of events, because so much of that chain depends on things fire made possible first. Bigger brains, stored food surplus, worked metal, and safe, settled communities. This is what makes fire such a strange technology to think about. It wasn't invented for any of these outcomes. Early humans weren't trying to build brains, cities, or metal tools when they first kept an ember alive. They just wanted to stay warm and keep predators away for one more night. Everything else, the brain size, the migration, the metal, the cities, was an accident stacked on top of that single small decision, repeated for 1,000,000 years. So in a very real sense, the entire modern world, every city, every machine, every piece of technology you rely on today is downstream of one specific, fragile choice: not letting that first ember go out. The next time you take fire completely for granted, because you can remember that in most versions of this story, that's exactly the point where it could have gone differently.